Small disclaimer, I am not a pilot, nor am I a professional DCS player. This is just my understanding of how these planes work, flying against some of my friends. So take all of this with a grain of salt. From conception, the designers behind the F-16 had one goal: to create the most dominant air superiority fighter the world had ever seen. It would be equipped with an APG-68 radar, state-of-the-art Sparrow missiles, Sidewinders, and later, the AIM-120. If by some miracle you managed to avoid its arsenal of missiles, the Falcon was forged with a Vulcan cannon and a thirst for blood. A thrust-to-weight ratio greater than 1:1. An airframe designed to be purposefully unstable. It was the first aircraft ever to have fly-by-wire coursing through every single vein. To date, the Falcon has an air-to-air kill ratio of 76:1. It's in service with more than 20 countries worldwide. They're flying so fast off the shelves, Lockheed can't keep up with demand. Given all of this, it's fairly safe to say that the engineers did their job. For this engagement, the merge is set at an altitude of 15,000 feet. Both aircraft will be loaded with high incendiary tracer ammunition, 50% of their fuel load, and 2 Fox 2s. The F-16 will bring the AIM-9X. To say these missiles are deadly would be an understatement. Compared to your 9Ms, the AIM-9X has a more advanced seeker, meaning it's less susceptible to flaring, and thanks to its thrust-vectored nozzle, it's more maneuverable as well. This means that the weapon employment zone is much bigger, and jamming it is that much more important. Because of the F-16's relaxed static stability, it's extremely maneuverable, but it also means that the Falcon has a much smaller flight envelope than other contemporary aircraft. In order to stop it from tumbling back down to Earth, the engineers mated its control surfaces to a fly-by-wire system, allowing them to be manipulated by an onboard flight computer, taking inputs sent by the pilot and translating them into stable control authority. Simply put, in certain situations, the Falcon will limit what the pilot can input, including yaw, roll, and most predominantly, pitch. Under normal operation, the F-16's angle of attack is limited to a maximum of 25 degrees, which is still a respectable amount and should not be underestimated, but in a one-circle engagement, if you play your cards right, the Falcon's AOA limit can start to work against it. As the energy states of both aircraft start to lower, you may find that at times you'll be able to effectively float over the Falcon's nose in order to avoid getting ripped apart. However, the F-16's flight computer will never let it become uncontrollable, and given the slow nature of the one circle, you'll be nearing stall speeds, which the Tomcat especially does not enjoy. At high angles of attack, air split by the wing doesn't reattach at the rear, which results in a stall. During extreme stalls, movement of the control surfaces split the airflow even more, creating drag and inducing opposite roll. Aircraft like the F-16 don't really suffer from this phenomenon thanks to its flight computer, but the Tomcat, a jet which was originally designed in the 60s, does. The F-14 does have a flight computer, but its authority over the control surfaces, if the pilot even wishes to grant it, is minimal at best. Its main function is to operate the wing sweep, which take into account 3 parameters: acceleration, altitude, and airspeed. If you want the wings to open up, you either need to slow the aircraft down and/or get lower. The Tomcat will give you everything you ask of it, even if it means damaging yourself in the process. When the Tomcat starts to stall, it'll buff it, and the severity of it is directly tied to the severity of the stall. The worse the buffeting, the more likely opposite roll is to occur. Practice with the rudders will help tremendously at these low speeds, but your roll performance will still decline the slower you get. You might be able to get away with rolling the opposite way in a stall, but as the severity of it decreases, you're likely to end up rolling the actual way you're pointing. Which is why, even as silly as it sounds, you should practice splitting your throttles. Experiments done by Growling Sidewinder have shown that utilizing differential thrust can greatly help any multi-engine aircraft's ability to roll at low speeds. But do not overdo it. The wide spacing between the Tomcat's engines increases the torque they have on the airframe, and can easily work against you, putting you in a flat spin, which you might be able to pull yourself out of, but it'll likely be too late by the time you do. Unfortunately, for pilots that face the Falcon, most would describe it as a 2-circle monster. Thanks to a test done by the Grim Reapers, they found that the F-16, with a fuel load of 50%, it'll get around its circle at a dangerous 20 degrees per second. Tomcat is able to perform fairly similarly, but the F-16 eats through its available fuel load faster, meaning the later the 2-circle begins, and the longer it goes on, the more of an advantage the Falcon has. You could attempt to make them overshoot, but if the Falcon still has even one of its 9X's, it's likely you'll end up a massive fireball. So, what do? Well, the solution is actually fairly simple. In order for the F-16 to achieve its optimal rate, it needs to be traveling fairly quickly. At Mach 0.8, the pilot of the F-16 will be edging 9 Gs and turning fairly wide. The Tomcat, however, can turn a little tighter. With the flaps fully extended, the Tomcat's 2 and even 1-circle performance improve drastically, allowing you to effectively sit inside the Falcon's circle. But if you push the airframe too hard, your flaps will jam, which, if it weren't for the Fox 2s, could allow the F-16 to extend away and gain a massive energy advantage. But remember, the Tomcat only has 9Ms, which are still deadly no doubt, but without thrust vectoring, they aren't able to pull nearly as hard as the 9X, so make sure to pull sufficient lead and make them count. In a vertical rate fight, the F-16's thrust-to-weight ratio arguably gives it the edge, but the B and even the A model can still put up quite a fight for a couple of turns thanks to its energy retention, but stay in that realm for too long and you're likely to end up in pieces. So, in conclusion, this all depends on pilot skill, error, and a little bit of luck. If you're interested in seeing how one of these fights panned out between a friend and I, click on this video here.